Epic Feixiao will obliterate your enemies, and today I'm gonna tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what relics does the almighty Merlin's Claw desire? None other than 4-piece wind-soaring Valorous. This is Feixiao's best in slot set that you should be farming without question, as it is best in slot across all of her teams. Increasing ult damage right after using a follow-up attack is quite literally perfect for her kit, and this choice tailors itself very nicely to Feixiao's main damage sources. Ash Blazing Duke is a fine alternative until you can farm up her full 4-piece set, because she's a follow-up attack-based character with follow-up attack-based teams. Pretty decent choice for her. 4-piece Diver works fine as well, as the 4-piece is quite universal. Plus, characters in her most common teams tend to apply debuffs consistently. Topaz, Mutse's Prey Mark, Aventurine's Burst, you get the idea. Another great alternative for our beloved Yaoqing General. 2-piece mix and match sets include 2-piece follow-up percent, win percent, attack percent, and damage percent. As for her 2-piece String and Orb, simple. 2-piece Duran, Dynasty of Running Wolves, was handcrafted for this unit. Plenty of follow-up attack percent and crit damage, you can't go wrong here. Though Izumo Gensei can actually come pretty close. You need another hunt in your team in order for it to reach peak potential, but considering how you'll be playing Feixiao alongside other follow-up attack-based units, that shouldn't be a problem at all. It's marginally better than Duran in this case, making it a super viable alternative for her. Inert Salsado buffs both ult damage and follow-up attack damage, so I see no reason as to why you couldn't use this either. Good replacement as well. As for Feixiao's main stats, simple. Go for speed boots, a crit percent body, win damage percent orb, and an attack percent string. There is no need to diverge from this specific main stat setup in particular whatsoever. Stat goals are pretty simple. You want 143 speed, 80% plus crit rate, as close to 100% as possible, and 160% plus crit damage. Feixiao's follow-up attacks and skill are both one hit, and not critting any one of her hits is a massive face tank to your DPS, so don't sleep on getting her a ton of crit rate. 140 free speed is the lowest amount of speed required for 5 actions in 3 cycles excluding Robin, so a safe bet indeed, and you want to aim for as much crit damage as possible, but at least 160 would be recommendable. Feixiao's relic options are all in domains that you may have farmed for other characters before, so you should have no problem slapping together a set for her if you've done any baseline amount of farming for other modern characters, such as Diver for Acheron or the Break set for Firefly. Acheron is popular, so I imagine most of you have an Izumo Gensei set on hand, but so is Firefly, and her signature 2-piece is paired with Kalpagni Lantern, so either way you're sorted in terms of power efficiency with your Feixiao. Feixiao is a general full of might, so naturally she needs a powerful light cone to dispose of her foes with utmost strength. Let's discuss. I venture forth to hunt not only puts Jingyuan to shame because Feixiao is an actual hunt general, but also acts as Feixiao's unconditional best in slot light cone option. It's no wonder why that's so. Death Ignore is a very powerful buff, and Feixiao does a lot of follow-up attacks, so it's very easy to keep up consistently. Definitely a peak Feixiao option, but that's to be expected seeing as it is her signature. I'd also like to add that the artwork is really cool, and Hoyon rocked it out of the park with her regal vibes. Baptism of Pure Thought is also highly suitable for Feixiao. It's very rare for the signature light cone of another 5-star to perfectly tailor to a different 5-star character's kit, but here we are. Everything that this cone provides is useful for Feixiao, and since follow-up attack characters naturally stick debuffs onto enemies, you'll have no problems with uptime on this cone. Excellent secondary choice. Zila's light cone is also quite nice for Feixiao, mostly for the buff that it provides ultimate damage. It's definitely not as well tuned to her as Ratio's cone is, but if you've long since retired your Zila and were looking for another opportunity to use her light cone again, well then you're in luck, as this is Feixiao's third best option. Topaz's light cone is also very follow-up attack centric, so it tailors well to our beloved Yaoqing General. Free crit stats are also more than welcome. Though, not sure why you'd not be using this on Topaz herself in Feixiao's team. Free-to-plays can turn to cruising in the Stellar Sea. Good old reliable. This light cone provides 5-star quality main stats to your general, and the passive is very all-purpose, so while it may not have any specifically tailored benefits for your Feixiao, crit and attack percent are stats that you simply can't refuse either. Really strong for a budget choice, you needn't look at any other one since this is free from the Herta shop. Of course, if your Stellar Sea is in use and you don't wish to swap it, you can also take a look at the 4-star light cone swordplay. It's very powerful at higher super positions, and since Feixiao's burst is quite literally only able to attack in single target, you can make full use of the passive. Great budget alternative for those of you who haven't got a Stellar Sea available. Feixiao is still 100% worth your time if you can only use budget options on her. Her 5-star light cones are very strong, yes, but don't sleep on a well-built swordplay or cruising Feixiao either. You'll still be able to wipe out Apocalyptic Shadow with ease and yield plenty of value out of her. I'd say anything below swordplay isn't really worth considering. Feixiao leads armies, so which soldiers are gonna step up to the task of aiding the general in battle? Her teams have a certain core to them, and if you follow said core, you'll end up with something fairly decent. There's the team head herself, Feixiao, a fellow follow-up attack teammate, a buffer, and a sustain. I'll talk about each of Feixiao's potential teammates for each part of the core individually to provide a more thorough analysis of how they work with Feixiao. Starting with her follow-up attack partners. Topaz is the immediate recommendation here. She helps Feixiao generate her ult stacks the fastest out of any of her follow-up attack teammates, provides one very good debuff for her and the whole team, and triggers her follow-up attacks very often when played with Feixiao. This is a very harmonious synergy, and the two treat follow-up attack procs very often. And more Topaz follow-ups equals more overall team DPS. She has excellent vertical investment potential for E1 and S1, and provides the strongest gameplay feel out of all of Feixiao's follow-up attack teammates. That is not to sleep on Motze, however, who is a 4-star follow-up attack unit coming out soon on Feixiao's banner. He's going to be a budget Topaz and is the second fastest generator of Feixiao's ult stacks. His prey marking counts as a debuff, and his E2 provides a whopping 40% crit damage buff to the whole team, which is a big deal considering how much crit rate you want to build on Feixiao. His base kit also has 25% follow-up damage taken in it, which is also really great. He offers a bit of personal damage too, and while his E2 is good for the team, you don't need all of his Eidolons to make Motze feel worth using, as the rest are more for his own personal DPS. Motze can be a super fast stack generator right out of the box at E0, and while he doesn't do as much damage as Topaz, he feels really slick and intuitive to play. He's my personal favorite follow-up character to use with Feixiao, even if he isn't the strongest by technicality. I've gotta give Hunt 7 some time under the spotlight as well, because for a budget option, she's incredible with Feixiao. Might I add that getting E6 is free. The dealio with March is simple. She does generate the Yao Qing General's ult stacks the slowest out of the free follow-up attack teammates, and March doesn't apply any debuffs. But what she lacks there, she makes up for with really solid personal damage utilizing her enhanced basic attack. Also, even if her stack generation is slower, it's still fairly well paced. Not to mention how in her base kit, she can provide Feixiao a really neat amount of 60% crit damage. Consider that this is in her base kit. It's a chunky buff in my opinion. For a budget 4-star, this is all crazy. And while I consider the other two to be better teammates than her, she is still more than serviceable. Then for the support part of the core, there's two main ones that you'd want to consider here, so let's go over them one at a time. Robin is Feixiao's premier follow-up attack support. There is simply no other way to word it. She provides her with the absolute strongest support possible for her entire team, and it is extremely difficult to replace her. She has a follow-up attack specific buff which is really good for the team's overall damage, and she sings and dances, which is a 1 billion% DPS increase. Jokes aside, you cannot get any better than Robin. Ruanmei is a viable alternative, however. This is because Feixiao's best game mode is Apocalyptic Shadow when you want a weakness break pretty badly in that game mode, and Ruanmei's toughness pen bonus can help speed up that break potential. She also offers plenty of other goodies like damage bonus percent in general, which Feixiao quite likes. Yes, Robin will be stronger, but you'd be very impressed of how well Ruanmei works here. Her buffing is also team-wide, which is great since follow-up attacks have multiple characters in the team dealing damage. For a sustainer, your main option is Aventurine. He offers a debuff on enemies with his ult that increases the crit damage they take. His follow-up attacks proc very often, leading to him being an excellent passive generator of Feixiao stacks. Additionally, his protection is second to none, being the best sustain in the game in my opinion. There's no other follow-up attack based sustain which is as good for the team as he is. If you don't have him, then use literally any other sustain to do the job, you'll be fine, but Nova Aventurine in particular is your best bet. The full premium team for Feixiao would be herself, Topaz, Robin, and Aventurine. You can swap Topaz for your follow-up attack goat of choice, and you're good to go. A great free-to-play team for the Robinless and Ruanless would be Triple Hunt, being Feixiao, Motze, Hunt 7th, and any sustain. I'm showing Gallagher as the example unit because he's been free and on banners often enough for most people to own one copy of the guy. This team for a free-to-play team is honestly really impressive. Feixiao also constantly gets her ult stacks back, which is nice. We've covered her greatest comps, yet how does this valorous war lady work? Simple. Her basics deal an impressive shot of wind damage to a single enemy. Okay, cool, nothing else to add here. Her skill launches her axe at a single enemy, and after she does this, she will immediately do a follow-up attack on the enemy. Neat. Feixiao's ultimate will have her dealing a crazy amount of wind slashes to the enemy target consecutively, where she can ignore their weakness with incredible efficiency. Pretty straightforward character to understand so far, I would say. As for her talent, it increases the stacking mechanic of Feixiao's ult. You can stack up to 12 times, but you need 6 to use her ult. This is to prevent stacks being wasted when something like Aventurine's follow-up attack triggers unexpectedly, as an example. She gains a stack for every 2 attacks by allies. After your teammates do an attack on a primary target or random enemy, Feixiao will then do her own follow-up attack against them as well. She can only do this once per turn, and this resets every time that her own turn starts again. She also gains a large damage dealt increase for 2 turns after doing this follow-up attack, which is a very easy uptime to upkeep, considering how often Feixiao does follow-up attacks. You want this buff to be active whenever you use your Feixiao's ultimate to achieve the most damage possible. Her technique pulls all enemies around you inside of her vortex ring, and yes, trotters are screwed by this. When entering battle during this state, Feixiao gives herself 1 ult stack and she deals some wind damage to enemies. As for Ascension passives, simple. Her A2 provides her more stacks of her ult whenever the battle starts. Very good to get off some early damage. Feixiao's A4 essentially allows any follow-up attack related buff to benefit her ultimate damage, which is very synergistic within her teams. She also gains a crap ton of innate crit damage. Her A6 provides her with a huge attack boost after using her skill, which is very easy to upkeep and is a very good innate buff. Good stuff. As for trace priorities, simple. Her ult is the main meat of her kit, so definitely tend to it first. Feixiao's talent is also a massive part of her damage output, so make sure not to sleep on it. I'd even still level her skill, even if it is the least important aspect in terms of her damage profile. And as cool as her normals are, you're not going to be wanting using them regularly if your skill point economy is healthy enough. Generals have medical bills too. Ling Sha said so. Why don't we have a look at Eidolons to fund Feixiao's? This is a very strong upgrade to your ult output. Really great for an E1, consider yourself extremely lucky if you land upon this. More damage dealt buffs are always solid. This reduces the amount of follow-up attacks that her allies need to do to build her ult stacks by 1, so not every 1 follow-up attack will generate Feixiao roughly 1.5 stacks. This effectively doubles the amount of ult she can do, and double the ult is obviously going to mean a lot more damage. Insane E2, Apocalyptic Shadow will wish it was never born with this around. The +2 to her ultimate is greatly appreciated, but it's a shame that they put the basic down here instead of her follow-up attack. This provides some incredible buffs to Feixiao, and helps out with how she does more damage to weakness broken foes during that crazy ult of hers. Very good E4. The follow-up attack increase is excellent for her damage output, and the skill increase is also a wonderful bonus as well. Cool. This simply juices up Feixiao's abilities to the max, and makes all of her follow-up attack hits deal ult damage as well. I don't think you need me to tell you that your enemies are absolutely cooked if they encounter an E6 Feixiao. Her vertical investment is nothing short of incredible. I'd actually go from E1 to E2 first, and then get her light cone. Those Eidolons are simply too good to be putting her light cone over them, but don't sleep on her light cone either. These are all strong pieces of the puzzle. You can go all the way to E6 after that, but yes, her E4 is worth getting on its own too. Above all else, I'd actually prioritize getting Robin though. She's such an integral core to Feixiao teams, and while the budget-friendly triple hunt team is incredible, having a Robin by your side is even more so. Hoyoverse genuinely knocked it out of the park with his unit. Her design, voice, kit, animations, and power level are all peak. It's really nice to see a powerful Jianzhou general, looking at you, Jingyuan, but seriously lives up to her name. She makes me feel like the title of Jianzhou general is more important than I actually gave it credit for. I'm absolutely pulling for this unit on my own account, and I hope you're all going to enjoy the alluring airstrike general as well. Hopefully this video was able to get your Feixiao blasting our enemies into next year. This has been Juice, signing out, and Feixiao is literally one of the coolest characters in Honkai Star Rail. It ain't even close.